Pam,
Hello. Nice.
Onward AI, another episode.
Onward AI. Here we go again.
Yeah, I think we have 12 followers or something now.
Do we? That's
I
exciting.
don't know.
That's exciting. They're probably all half of them are family, but that's
We're
okay.
doing it. We're doing it for ourselves, right? And
Exactly.
and hopefully somebody somewhere will get something out of this,
I,
and that
I
it'll
think
be
it's really
worthwhile.
useful to articulate for yourself what you've learned in the process and then
It's true.
remind yourself of those things that you've learned and put them into practice regularly, right? So for me, that's been, I think, quite useful. So,
Yeah, and you start to. I'm terrible at this, but I take for granted what I know, and I think everybody knows it.
yeah.
So I forget to kind of put myself in other people's shoes and kind of maybe they don't know this stuff, and I hope they find it helpful. So
Yeah.
we're going to do some tips and tricks today, right?
Yeah, and I was just going to say, so that really, I think, is the focus for today is to maybe share some of that learning that we've had along the way. So, why don't I go first? I've got a couple. Mine are probably a little bit more entry level than yours. So, we'll go from easier to more complex as we go along. So, for me, I think one of the most useful things that somebody can do when you are using an AI platform, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever, is to have a really robust prompt. And by prompt, what we mean is what is it that we're asking the AI to do? And so for me, it really starts with being as articulate as I can. Like I'm writing at least a paragraph. For one thing, I asked it to do, which was create quite a complicated research presentation. I had an entire page of instructions. So I think first thing for me is a really robust prompt. And that's when you hear a lot in the world of AI, that is where you can just make or break as a beginner. The value you're getting out of it is the value that you put in to instruct it. So I think that's part one. And then part two related to that for me is the idea of really assigning the AI tool a very specific role. So for me, I always start by saying act as. So whether it's act as a consultant in governance or act as a marketing strategist or that kind of a thing, be very specific about what we're asking it to do. And that really helps, I think, to hone in on the context that it's operating within. So that's my second one. And the third one that I'm just starting to like really understand is you can actually provide it with very specific reference material, and we can talk another time about what information AI is pulling and what's right and what's wrong. But if you actually load in very specific files of data or information and say use this file and answer me these questions. So for example, I have two examples, one of which I didn't do well and I'm now going to redo, which is when a couple episodes ago, we talked about I created those action figures for the Girl Guides board. For the life of me, I could not get the AI to use the current Girl Guides logo. And it went back and back and back. And so now I know I can actually put that current logo in there and put it in memories and say, only use this.
Yeah,
And I
that's what
didn't
I
do
was going
that
to say.
before.
Sometimes you need to tell it to ignore everything else,
Right.
and just use
Yeah.
what I'm giving you.
Yeah. And then my
Yeah.
second example for that is because I'm starting some advisory work, I have to, register for an HST number. And I wanted to understand at what point in time do I need to do that, what level of revenue, etc. So I actually went and said, use only this site, which was the Canadian Revenue Agency site. I said, use only this site and tell me what I need to know. And that gave me very specific feedback. And also, it meant I didn't have to scour the site to be able to understand it. So that is my third one. And then my fourth one, I'm going to hand it over to you and then I can pepper in as we go. Within Zoom, within Teams, you can do this. I don't have my own personal subscriptions for these. I work with companies that have these. Is transcription tools. I actually buy a third party transcription tool because I'm not part of those companies. So I don't use the Teams one. I don't use the Zoom one. I use one called Otter.ai. Does all the same kind of stuff. So, for example, just before this meeting, I was listening to a webinar on boards and AI. So I just turn it on, and then it has given me afterward my like 4 action items It has summarized what the learnings were. If I, sort of lose focus, I'm not paying attention. And of course, it has the whole transcript. So those transcription tools, I think, are like table stakes for people now. Now, you have to be very careful when you're using a transcription tool and you're not in confidential settings, because that gets out there
Yeah.
to the world.
So I used Otter quite a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I went away from Otter and I rely more on the native platforms
Mm-hmm.
is because they are much better at associating who says what, because people are logging in with their
Yes.
name, right?
Yes.
That was the one challenge I had with Otter, was if there was a bunch of people and they're all saying something, it was like speaker number one, speaker
And it
two.
still does that. Yeah.
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 And I get it, right? I don't know how it would know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Although it was pretty good at identifying, I think, like speaker number one was consistent,
Yeah.
the same person,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah,
And for me, because I'm using it mainly when I'm doing webinars and stuff like that, it's not the end of the world. Whereas you're in meetings all the time and you want to make sure you have a good record of who said
yeah,
what.
yeah.
So for me, it's not as important in that regard. But I
Have
am.
you
Sorry, go ahead.
have you tried actually just using ChatGPT to do that?
You know what? It was funny when I was like thinking about this for today. I thought, oh, I wonder if I should just try that. I have not yet, so that can be some of my homework.
Yeah, I haven't actually tried that either. Like I said, I use most of the native
Yeah.
platforms. We're mostly Teams,
Hmm.
for better or worse, whatever.
Yeah.
But it does do a pretty good job of identifying, of course, who says what, and summarizing
Yeah.
for the most part. I mean,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
doesn't know all the nuance,
Yeah.
which is one of my, I would say, I think there's an opportunity for somebody like Microsoft to
Hmm.
like build that nuance in, kind of like the memories idea.
Yeah.
I'm sure the challenge there is Microsoft is typically an enterprise solution. So do they want all that stuff kind of stored in somewhere else, making assumptions? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I would be helpful though.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough.
So one other thing I'd add to the prompt
Yeah.
is I like to give it as much context as possible. So like, hey, I'm doing this because I'm gonna do this for this
Hmm.
scenario, right?
Yeah.
And I find it you get a better response,
Hmm.
with that, because now it's like, oh, okay, I get what you're trying to do. I know what the
Yeah.
goal is. I'll head in that direction. The other comment you said too about writing very clearly and precisely, it made me think a while back. Like English majors now are probably going to do very well
Yeah.
because they can write clearly, concisely, which is exactly. I mean, you don't have to be clear and concise.
Hmm.
Believe me, I am terrible at
Hmm.
clear and concise. I'm a bullet point guy, right? Like,
Yeah.
as quick as possible. And I have noticed over time, like GPT-5, with the auto select and everything else, it does a pretty good job of figuring out the context of what you're trying to do,
Hmm.
better than previous models. So because I always forget, like you are a marketing expert or whatever, right? Um, I have found that it's getting better at realizing that, and maybe it's in my memories. I don't know, but
Hmm.
it's getting better that way.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, there's so much to learn. So,
So much to learn.
and
So
it
much
and
to learn.
changes so quickly.
So quickly.
I'll tell you what. I'm gonna share my screen here and see if I can just show a few things that I think might not be completely um, obvious to everybody. Let me just find the right one. Okay. All right. So everybody, I'm sure, is familiar with ChatGPT. I'm currently on the web version. I often use the desktop version, but I find the desktop version kind of lags the web version. So if there's a new feature that I've heard of and I want to use it, it might not necessarily be there.
Oh.
For instance, GPTs. At one point, I wasn't able to create a new GPT in my desktop version. I had to go to
Hmm.
the web version to do that. Matter of fact, I think I might still have to do that. And I'll get back to GPTs in a minute, but that's one of the things I wanted to mention. The other thing I wanted to mention was this plus sign, or the same thing happens if you put I never remember if that's a backslash or forward slash. I think it's a forward slash. You bring this other menu up, and if you haven't used this stuff, it's actually pretty amazing. And I'll quickly just to kind of explain what most of them do.
Yeah.
The deep research one is like your answer. It's going to take a lot longer, and it's going to give you a lot longer answer, but it's going to be very in depth, right? So if you have a topic that you really want to maybe write an article about or something like that, if you do that, you give it half an hour or so, because literally it will take
Oh,
half an
yeah.
hour
Okay.
to depending on what it is, but
Yeah.
it's going to come back with a fantastic report for you. Now you'll notice that when you choose, I don't know why there we go. When you choose that one, you also get these options, right? So you can enable or disable the web search. So either you want it to just stay within what it knows in the LLM, or you're like, hey, check, what is the latest on the news or whatever. You're going to want to do it there. Now, these other things too are very cool, right? So I could connect my Outlook email. Matter of fact, I have it connected here. And if I turn this on, I could ask it to go and search through my emails and pull together. Let's say I'm working on closing a deal with a potential prospect, right? I
Yeah.
could say, hey, go through all my emails from, John Doe, and I want to put together a presentation based on the conversations that we've had over the last 3 months. And it goes and it looks and it finds those and it uses that as part of the context for its response.
Can I just ask a question in that regard?
Yeah.
So what about any confidentiality or privacy? Are you thinking I'm only going to do this in situations where, if the information was out in the world and say Google could get after it, then it's okay because, once it's out in this LLM, it's theirs as well as yours. So are
Well,
you
so
you
so I do not share like in here. Where is it? If I go to my settings, there is a where is it? It's something about security probably.
okay?
There's something about data controls.
Okay.
Improve the model for everyone. I have it off, and
Okay.
that means that it's not sending my information to be used in training the next model.
Yeah.
So, so that's that. I mean, that's kind of a for in our company, that's our policy.
Yeah.
First of all, you must have a paid account
Yeah.
because sometimes free accounts you cannot turn that
No, you
off.
can't.
So,
Yeah.
so business wise, you must have a paid account and you must turn that off.
Yeah.
And there's certain things you can do like organization wide, you can turn
Yeah.
that off, things like that.
Yeah. That's good.
Now, one of my complaints is like I have the pro account, and this is the expensive one, and I I had a company account, right? So we have an account with ChatGPT or OpenAI for the whole team, and we've got that stuff turned on automatically. But for me, I can't have my team plan and I can't
Oh,
update one user to the pro plan, right?
yes.
So I've actually got a separate account for me.
Got it.
So that's one of the drawbacks. But let's go back into some of these other things.
Yeah.
So GitHub, if you're a coder, of course, you're going to turn that on so it knows it can look in your repository of your code, and if you're creating new code with Codex, you can make pull requests and the whole bit. But this, yeah, and there's all kinds of more connectors that you can
Yeah.
connect to. So that's the research one. Create an image. This is literally, create. It's gonna you describe what you want, and it's gonna create an image, and I'll show you. So this is ChatGPT uses Sora in the background, and Sora is also, and I believe this might the Sora part might be just for paid users, but you can create an image even with a free account. But just to give you some examples of what I wanted to do, I wanted to create an image of me in a data center looking like Where's Waldo,
Where's Waldo?
and this is what it came up with. So I started with a reference image of myself,
Yeah.
and that was it. And then I said, hey, make me look like I'm standing in a data center, and make me look like I'm dressed like Where's Waldo, and here we are. So.
There you go.
So that's some of the really important stuff you can do with AI. Back to this real quick. Let's look at some of the other ones. Agent mode. Agent mode is crazy. It's basically gonna, if you tell it to do something. So let's say you wanted to find a restaurant in Houston that serves, I don't know, food from Bali, uh, and make a reservation for me on October 10th,
Yeah.
right? It will go, it'll search, it'll open up a little browser inside of itself. It'll search the web, it'll go on there, it'll log you in. Sometimes it'll prompt you to say, hey, I need you to log into this account or whatever.
Hmm.
And it'll go and it'll actually create and do what you ask it to do.
Yeah.
It's really pretty crazy. Um, Connectors, I kind of talked a little bit about connectors a little while ago. And then we've got also these ones. Web search, of course. Canvas is very cool. It's going to give you a preview of what you, let's say it creates a document and you want to be able to edit it. So, write a quick article about this, and then it pops it up in Canvas, and change it, and it will do it right then and there.
Just before you move on to the styles, one of those was study and learn, and I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and this guy uses the study and learn mode with his son, and they do all kinds of basically like tutorials to help his son with various different school subjects, and they're creating quizzes, they're creating games, they're creating all kinds of stuff using that study and learn mode, which is when you think about, you're using it for yourself, but actually you can use it to help your kids too.
Well, that was perfect because it's the one that I know the least about, Pam. So
Okay.
thank you for filling that in.
Oh, perfect.
That was perfect.
Glad to tell you.
So that's just a few of the things that I think most people
Yeah.
haven't dug that far into it, but I encourage you to play around with it. Oh, and
Yeah.
don't forget add files, right?
Yeah.
As you mentioned before, you can add a document that you want to reference, and let's say it's a big, long, standard operating procedure or a policy document. You can upload that and maybe a couple of them
Yeah.
and say, hey, pick all the best stuff out of this and create a new document from it. It's going to reference that. Very powerful.
And just related to that in a more simple way, because, and we discovered this, we were playing around last week. One of the websites that it will not actually scrape and scour is LinkedIn.
Is
And
LinkedIn.
so
Yeah.
when I'm looking to help build out my profile or my brand Pam, I've actually uploaded my resume into it as a file associated, and that now anytime I go forward and I'm trying to figure out how to pitch myself for something, it's just all there and it's pulling from that, right? But you had to upload the file because it won't talk to LinkedIn.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see what it comes up.
What it says today. Yeah, who knows? Maybe every week it'll change.
I think last week it didn't tell us. I can't look at this anymore.
Yeah.
Well, this is one thing about ChatGPT. You can choose your model here, right? I don't
Yeah.
know if everybody knows that. It's becoming less important because it kind of auto switches now.
Hmm.
Um, but like if you want the pro version, that's an option where you select pro. Now, it typically each time you do go down the list, it's going to take longer, and but it's probably going to give you a better answer.
Oh my gosh, it's working now.
Look at that, it didn't work.
A week later, like last week, we literally looked at this and LinkedIn had blocked it.
Well, there you go.
Fascinating.
So,
So, do we have time for one more thought? Because
let's do it.
okay, go for it.
Oh, I thought you were going to do one, but
No,
yes,
I thought
okay.
I thought maybe you had one more.
I would like to come back to GPTs.
Yeah.
GPTs are pretty cool. Like you can create a GPT, right? You can do it this way where it's going to like basically you just tell it, hey, this is what I want this thing to do.
I was going to say, define what you mean by creating a GPT.
Right. So this is a specialized. It's if you start in just ChatGPT, it's going to give you the same answer. But if you're doing something over and over and over again, and you want it to basically give you this, all the prompts ahead of time that you want to put in here. So let me just show you. So for instance, you can upload some files, right? So if I uploaded my brand guideline and my, mission statement and all that kind of stuff, and maybe some a reference to, I don't know, some blogs from Seth Godin or something like that. I could put all that in here. I could call it, something like my company mission slash Seth Godin questions and answers, right? And give it a description. And here is where you're going to put in that prompt, right? Like you are Seth Godin and you know this data from these documents. And I want you to answer any question you get, like your Seth Godin in his style based on the book, This is Marketing. And so if you're doing that a lot, right, you don't want to have to set all this stuff up every single time. So you create a GPT that does that, and you can choose the model here or whatever. And when you save that, it will create a GPT like this one here. And this is where I have all the marketing stuff. I think I mentioned this one before, right?
Yep.
So all this stuff is in here already, and I just ask it a question, and now it knows all that stuff, and it knows to think like a marketing expert and things like that. And you can do this for anything, right? You could, let's say you were planning a wedding and you had a whole bunch of reference things you liked, images you liked, documents you liked, whatever websites you liked, and you wanted it to be in a style of some sort of, I don't know if there's like famous wedding planners or whatever, but you know that idea, you could put that in there, and you could put your preferences, right? Like you can tell it, look, it's going to be a fall wedding, it's going to be in Southern Virginia, and it's going to be outdoors, right? So now you don't have to tell it that every single time. You just go to here and it's like, oh, new question about my wedding. Should I, how big of a tent should I have for 150 people? And it's going to know all that context, and
Yeah.
it's going to give you the answer based on that.
So you just said a word, and you've said it a couple times that I think it's a really useful way to sort of wrap us up, and that is the word context. And so if we say, okay, where do we go from here, and how do we make the most use out of this? Context is such an important foundation. So the more context you put into it, the more value you're going to get out of it. And to me, I think that's a useful takeaway from this whole thing, which is everything you do just adds, all the tools we've talked about just adds more context to make it a richer output for us.
100%. And as
Yeah.
soon as I figure out how to stop sharing my screen here, I'm gonna. Okay, I'm
All
back.
right, there you go. There you go. So I think
So
that was
yes,
a good
to,
session. Yeah. Sorry. Did you want to say something else
yeah,
about
one
context?
more thing on context.
Yeah.
If you put it in your mind, kind of frame of mind that it only knows what you tell it.
Yep.
Um, so if you want it to make a great decision on stuff, it needs to know all the different inputs to make
Yeah.
a good decision.
Yeah.
Now it knows a lot of stuff, but it doesn't know the stuff that's specific to you. So
Yeah.
give it that context,
Yeah.
especially your intention and how you want things to come out, and
Hmm.
you'll be much happier with the results.
Yeah. So you could even say it only operates on what you tell it. Yeah. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Good. Okay. So we've got, I think, lots of actions to take away and experiment with this time. I have several that I need to go and
You're gonna make yourself a
practice.
GPT.
I'm going to make myself a GPT.
Nice.
I think that's going to be a good experiment. So, good to catch up on tips and tricks this time, and looking forward to chatting about something new in terms of AI next time.
Sounds good.
Good. Onward.
Onward.